welcome back. This video is about fitting the G-Craft needle roller bearing support for the gear shift shaft. So this is what you'd get in the kit, with a set of instructions that's in Japanese that you can Google translate. Here's the fitting, it's quite nicely made. I took it apart because I wanted to know what bearing was in there. So you've got a seal with a roller bearing, and that's got a sleeve that goes into it. So I'm going to grease all this up, and then I'll pop the dust cover back on. So here's the measurements I took and the details about the bearing that's in there, which turns out to be quite a good one, so I'm quite happy about that. So the first thing to do is to remove 6 12mm bolts. There's 2 on the crash guard at the back. Once those are off, you can just swivel that forwards a little bit, and then there's 4 holding the bracket on. And then that just drops out of the way. And then the pedals held on with a 10mm bolt. And I've already centre punched the shaft from fitting this support that's on at the moment. Then I'm just removing the old support bracket. It's quite good getting that, because at least it made me realise that it does actually make quite a difference having it on there. And then replacing the bolts that came out. So the long one goes into the casing and the short one into the sprocket cover. And these are the torques for various size bolts and nuts that is off the workshop manual. So M6 is 12 Newton meters. And I'm going to do the cover up to 8. That's all right, good. And now remove the 2 bolts that the bracket attaches to. Now I'm just going to grease up the shaft and the bearing. Pop the spacer in. And push back the seal. And put in the bolts that came with the kit with the spacers. And they're tightened up to 12 Newton meters. And then wipe it all down. Fit the pedal back on. lining up my centre punch mark. And fit the foot pegs bracket back on. And before I tighten those up, because there's a bit of wiggle room, I'm going to slide the crash bars back and get those bolts in, and then just tighten everything up. Yep. 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 And then take it for a test run. Job's a good one. Wow, is all I can say. That is better than the cheap one that I had on. A lot more positive, even to the point where I'm going to have to get used to shifting down a little bit, because yeah, it's going down and go down one more. Yeah, it's a lot smoother, lot better. 100%, well, not 100%, yeah, a lot better. Vast improvement. No, improvement. Noticeable improvement. There you go, a noticeable improvement. So that G-Craft one, needle roller bearings, about £56 I think to the door, something like that. Not far off that anyway. And the other one without a bearing, which was just a bracket, and it had a bit of an air gap around it, so it didn't hold the shaft securely. That was about £8 to the door, but I didn't want to spend the 50 odd pound if it, you know, if it didn't make any difference, but because it does, and a lot of, you know, in my opinion, quite a bit of difference, then I thought it was worthwhile getting the needle roller bearing one. And I have seen them on one of the Facebook groups. The chap got one for about £21 from AliExpress, but I looked on AliExpress and went through all of the ones I could find, and I couldn't find a JA55 specific one, whereas this chap had found one. And I think it all depends on what search term you put in. So I put gear shaft, stabilising bracket and support and all sorts of things, and that one didn't come up that the chap on the Facebook group had. But by then I'd bought this one. Bit of a bummer, but never mind. And also I did ask him, you know, what was the bearing, but he's not got back to me. So it was a different dust seal, same size though, so whether or not it was a cheaper roller bearing or not, I don't know. The one that's in the G-Craft is quite a good one, because that was my concern. That's why I wanted to find out what bearing was in there, because if it was no good, I was going to replace it with a Neff or something like that, or a fag or something. But when I started reading up about it, they're actually pretty good. NTN, I think. So yeah, happy bunny with that one. And I know that I can replace it as and when if it got worn out, so that's good as well. So on the whole, happy bunny. Anyway, I hope that's been of use or help to you. I put the measurements up so that you didn't have to sort of rummaging around, because I couldn't find out what the bearing was in the G-Craft one. So now you know, so you don't have to look that up. So I hope that's helpful. Love a 2CV. Yeah, good. Okay, well that's it for now then. I've got a few videos coming up. One's just a compilation of ruts and mud, and one is the part 2 of the Fossway, which I remastered to get better quality out of it. So I'll bung those up in the next couple of weeks, and I'll probably then get back to the Harley stuff, but I'm really just doing what I'm doing when I'm doing it, sort of thing. So I'm losing subscribers, a few anyway, when I put the Honda ones up, which I suppose that means that there's some die-hard Harley people that aren't interested. I don't know. Anyway, it would really help me if you guys subscribed, because I get 96% of the people that watch my videos don't subscribe, and I'd be well up into the thousands of subscribers if everybody did. Just a thought, it doesn't cost anything. Anyway, I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Cheerio.